To just introduce this subject today while we start, since now we're live and this is for the recorded session. We welcome everyone on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for coming out today. We appreciate it. This session, we're continuing with paragraph 17 of Advent and Divine Justice, and we are looking forward to a full session on the subject of paragraph 17 to start. An Advent of Divine Justice. You can access all the beautiful videos that have been produced thanks to Ehsan Bayat of the Crimson Academy here on the Clearwater Bahá'ís page, the Facebook page, the YouTube, and we have, of course, our playlist, which you can see all the items in the past, as this is our next session in the series of sessions. Today's date is October 17, 2021, and it's a Sunday, 3 p.m. local time. We hope that all of you joining us are able to ask your questions, if you have any, in the comments, of course, on Zoom, to ask your questions in the chat, or just unmute yourself and ask your question. So we have Ehsan Bayat joining us shortly, and before that, we're going to have the prayer for the Southern States recited. And I know, dear Linda, you said it once off camera, if you don't mind saying it again.
Sure. Oh my God, thou seest me in my lowliness and weakness, occupied with the greatest undertaking, determined to raise thy word among the masses and to spread thy teachings among thy peoples. How can I succeed unless thou assist me with the breath of the Holy Spirit? Help me to triumph by the hosts of thy glorious kingdom, and shower upon me thy confirmations, which alone can change a gnat into an eagle, a drop of water into rivers and seas, and an atom into lights and suns. O my Lord, assist me with thy triumphant and effective might, so that my tongue may utter thy praises and attributes among all people, and my soul overflow with the wine of thy love and knowledge. Thou art the omnipotent and the doer of whatsoever thou willest. Abdul Baha.
So it's normally a good thing to meditate after these prayers and allow the meaning to sink in, to reflect on it. I cut that part short because we are in a presentation and we're moving forward, but it's always a good thing to pray and reflect and take the time that is needed to reflect, if it be a short while in your case, or a longer while in your case, or who knows, maybe a whole day's worth of reflection and meditation. Everyone's cup is a different size at different moments, and the idea is that we fill our cup. And also another nice thing to point out, when Baha'is have prayer gatherings, it is a very helpful tool when we pray to first choose our prayers before we engage in prayer, so people aren't fumbling through prayer books or choosing who prays what, especially people telling each other, hey, you do this, you do that, you do that. It takes away from the spiritual effect of the meditation. So it's a good idea before people pray that it's decided what's happening, and when that prayer flows naturally, it's something that allows people to really soak in the value of that moment. And of course, when people are in a greater state of unity, sometimes communication isn't even needed. And this flow of prayer, when people meet and pray together, it's a really transcendent event, more transcendent than, of course, planning something. So there is the concept of a flock of birds flying together. One bird all of a sudden moves with all the other birds all at once, and it's as if all of them know what the other birds are thinking, although they're not speaking to our senses. And imagine that as human beings praying together in that sense, acting together as one. That is a reflection just to point out. Now, Jeremiah, if you don't mind, would you be able to display your screen for the PowerPoint, or I can put mine for now, and I would like you to take over if you need me to do it.
Yeah, can you do it, John?
Okay, I need you to take over. This is temporary. I'm not that good at doing this. All right, so I'm going to share my PowerPoint screen. One moment, everyone. Now, I am fine doing the full PowerPoint layout, which I'm going to do. Just give me a moment. There we go. Can you all see the opening slide with the one on the left?
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm moving on to the next slide. So today's subject, exploring Advent and divine justice, we are looking at paragraphs 17 through 18. So paragraph 17 and 18, we are discussing building a framework for nascent institutions, the construction of the Baha'i house of worship. And we're focusing today first on securing this allegiance of royalty, the establishment of Baha'i schools, and other major achievements. So paragraph 17, the advent of divine justice, this paragraph today that we're starting with. If Scott or Linda, if Scott, you would like to be the first to read paragraph 17?
Sure. Okay. What other community, it can be confidently be asked, has been instrumental in fixing the pattern and in imparting the original impulse to those administrative institutions that constitute the vanguard of the world order of Baha'u'llah? What other community has been capable of demonstrating with such consistency the resourcefulness, the discipline, the iron determination, the zeal and perseverance, the devotion and fidelity so indispensable to the erection and continued extension of the framework within which those nascent institutions can alone multiply and mature? What other community has proved itself to be fired by so noble a vision, or willing to rise to such heights of self-sacrifice, or ready to achieve so great a measure of solidarity as to be able to raise in so short a time and in the course of such crucial years an edifice that can well deserve to be regarded as the greatest contribution ever made by the West to the cause of Baha'u'llah?
Excellent. So as we look at this passage here, there are big questions. So I see, if I can count just the question marks, I can see one question, two questions, three questions. Can we all agree it's three questions?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I hope we can answer this question together. I mean, it can be rhetorical questions, but we can answer it. So here is the continuation of that paragraph. If Linda, would you like to read this?
All right. What other community can justifiably lay claim to have succeeded through the unsupported efforts of one of its humble members in securing the spontaneous allegiance of royalty to its cause, and in winning such marvelous and written testimonies to its truth? What other community has shown the foresight, the organizing ability, the enthusiastic eagerness that have been responsible for the establishment and multiplication throughout its territory of those initial schools which, as time goes by, will, on the one hand, evolve into powerful centers of Baha'i learning, and on the other, provide a fertile recruiting ground for the enrichment and consolidation of its teaching force. What other community has produced pioneers combining to such a degree the essential qualities of audacity, of consecration, of tenacity, of self-renunciation, and unstinted devotion that have prompted them to abandon their homes and forsake their all and scatter over the surface of the globe and hoist in uttermost corners the triumphant banner of Baha'u'llah.
All right. Now I'll read this paragraph, this continuation of the paragraph, 17. Who else but the members of this community have won the eternal distinction of being the first to raise the call of Ya Baha'u'llah Pa in such highly important and widely scattered centers and territories as the hearts of both the British and French empires, Germany, the Far East, the Balkan states, the Scandinavian countries, Latin America, the islands of the Pacific, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, and now more recently the Baltic states. Who else but those same pioneers have shown themselves ready to undertake the labor, to exercise the patience, and to provide the funds required for the translation and publication in no less than 40 languages of their sacred literature, the dissemination of which is an essential prerequisite to any effectively organized campaign of teaching? What other community can lay claim to have had a decisive share in the worldwide efforts that have been exerted for the safeguarding and the extension of the immediate surroundings of its holy shrines, as well as for the preliminary acquisition of the future sites of its international institutions at its world center? What other community can, to its eternal credit, claim to have been the first to frame its national and local constitutions, thereby laying down the fundamental lines of the twin charters designed to regulate the activities, define the functions, and safeguard the rights of its institutions? What other community can boast of having simultaneously acquired and legally secured the basis of its national endowments, thus paving the way for a similar action on the part of its local communities? What other community has achieved the supreme distinction of having obtained, long before any of its sister communities had envisaged such a possibility, the necessary documents assuring the recognition by both the federal and state authorities of its spiritual assemblies and national endowments? And finally, what other community has had the privilege and been granted the means to succor the needy, to plead the cause of the downtrodden, and to intervene so energetically for the safeguarding of Baha'i edifices and institutions in countries such as Persia, Egypt, Iraq, Russia, and Germany, where at various times its fellow believers have had to suffer the rigors of both religious and racial persecution? Now, a factoid. This paragraph is an astonishing 688 words long. Can you believe that? This paragraph 17 is 688 words long.
True to Shoghi Effendi's style.
Yes. And they're all parts of where it's really one point in a very serious sense as well. Very global. So here's paragraph 18. Linda, would you like to read this?
All right. Such a matchless and brilliant record of service extending over a period of well nigh 20 years, and so closely interwoven with the interests and fortunes of such a large section of the worldwide Baha'i community, deserves to rank as a memorable chapter in the history of the formative period of the faith of Baha'u'llah. Reinforced and enriched as it is by the memory of the American believers' earlier achievements, such a record is in itself convincing testimony to their ability to befittingly shoulder the responsibilities which any task may impose upon them in the future. To overrate the significance of these manifold services would be well nigh impossible. To appraise correctly their value and dilate on their merits and immediate consequences is a task which only a future Baha'i historian can properly discharge. I can only for the present place on record my profound conviction that a community capable of showing forth such deeds, of evincing such a spirit, of rising to such heights, cannot but be already possessed of such potentialities as will enable it to vindicate in the fullness of time its right to be acclaimed as the chief creator and champion of the world order of Baha'u'llah.
So, the beloved guardian highlights the matchless record of the North American Baha'i community. In paragraph 17, Shoghi Effendi spells out some of the major achievements of the North American Baha'i community over the past 20 years through a series of 11 rhetorical questions. He reiterates in paragraph 18 his conviction that a community capable of showing forth such deeds, of evincing such a spirit, of rising to such heights, already has the potential to be eventually the chief creator and champion of the world order of Baha'u'llah.
Thank you, John. Whenever you're ready, we could resume our session that we were picking up from last week. It's wonderful, dear John, that you managed to gather the class and recap paragraph 17 and 18. That was very useful for our session today. And so, dear John, without any, if you could kindly stop sharing so I could share the PowerPoint that I have, because I've added some slides on in this section, even because I found a wonderful letter from Miss Martha Root that really adds to this section. So it will be really nice to read that for today.
Sounds good. So I think we're not sharing anymore. So you
Excellent.
should be able to share. Okay,
perfect. Thank you, dear John. Okay, so first of all, welcome back. I apologize. I was at my house and the reception there wasn't as good, so I rushed over to my office. So here we are. Okay, so it's wonderful you guys reread paragraph 17, and last week we only got up to the end of this paragraph, just to up to here where it says, what other community has proved itself to be fired by so noble a vision to rise, to erect this edifice, right? This edifice, the Mashal Askar. So we watch the history, the complete history of how this house of worship came into being. Now, in the next line, it says, what other community can justifiably lay claim to have succeeded through the unsupported efforts of one of its humble members in securing the spontaneous allegiance of royalty to its cause and in winning such marvelous and written testimonies to its truth. So this is where we're going to jump back in, dear John, into our session and find out about this history of securing the allegiance of royalty. Okay, so this is where we are in our section. Okay, so Dear Scott, if you could take us away and start off with the reading.
Sure. Queen Marie was born in Kent, England. Her mother was the only surviving daughter of the Tsar Alexander II of Russia, who had received a special tablet from Baha'u'llah. Queen Marie married Crown Prince Ferdinand I of Romania in 1893 and reigned with him from 1914 to 1927, and then as Queen Dowager from 1927 to 1938.
Excellent. So there they are. This is Queen Marie of Romania. This is King Ferdinand, and this is Princess Aliana. So this is the princess. And so one of the questions asked by the beloved guardian in paragraph 17 that we just read is, what other community can justifiably lay claim to have succeeded through the unsupported efforts of one of its humble members in securing the spontaneous allegiance of royalty to its cause, and in winning such marvelous and written testimonies to its truth? The royalty refers to Queen Marie of Romania, and one of its humble members is a reference to Miss Martha Root, the first American Baha'i who arose to teach the faith after meeting Abdu'l-Baha in 1911 and 1912. Miss Martha Root left the United States in January of 1915 on her first travel teaching trip to Europe. She responded to the call of Abdu'l-Baha in the tablets of the Divine Plan in the same year they were unveiled in the United States, 1919, and embarked in the first of her world journeys, which were to span a total period of 20 years. And as you recall, in our study of America and the Most Great Peace, how many times did she go around the planet? Does anyone recall?
3?
4. 4 times. It was she went around in it was 4 times she did world journeys on her epic teaching crusade. So it was 4 times. It was an incredible. That's why she is known as the mother teacher, the itinerant teacher and the ambassadress of the faith. So this is the location where she met Queen Marie of Romania, Tenha Yuva. It is a solitary nest. That's what it translates to, solitary nest, the secluded palace of the royal family in the Baltic, Romania, on the Black Sea. It's extremely beautiful, and it's still there, and it was designed by Queen Marie of Romania, and it is incredibly luxuriant, and you can there's videos on YouTube that you can actually, it's almost like a museum palace now that you can go and visit, and it's so elegant. The gardens and the interior, all designed by Queen Marie of Romania. And this is where Miss Martha Root visited Queen Marie of Romania in autumn of 1929. And this was her gift to Miss Martha Root, says to Miss Root Marie. So this was her signature, and attached was a picture. Queen Marie sent open letters to Canadian and American newspapers and publicly proclaimed her support for the faith. And her letter in the Toronto Star, 4th May 1926, read, "It is a wondrous message that Baha'u'llah and his son Abdu'l-Baha have given us. Love, the mainspring of every energy, tolerance towards each other, desire of understanding each other, knowing each other, helping each other, forgiving each other. It is Christ's message taken up anew in the same words almost, but adapted to the 1,000 years and more difference that lies between the year 1 and today. If ever the name of Baha'u'llah or Abdu'l-Baha comes to your attention, do not put their writings from you. Search out their books and let their glorious, peace-bringing, love-creating words and lessons sink into your hearts, as they have into mine. Seek them and be the happier. So this is an extract that was published in the Baha'i World, Volume 7. And it was also, this was an extract that was published in her letter in the Toronto Star, 4th of May, 1926. And here it is. So this is the same extract. And remember, this famous addresses were published in multiple places. So this is the same letter from the Queen's Council, published in the Cincinnati Enquirer, Cincinnati, 4th May, 1926. And this is the full message in the Queen's Council the day after receiving that book, and that book being Baha'u'llah and the New Era, given to her by Miss Martha Root. And so this is her response, her meaning Queen Marie of Romania's response to receiving Baha'u'llah and the New Era from Miss Martha Root. And so let us have a reader read this. Okay. John, if you could read this one, that would be great.
Sure. An American woman brought me the other day a book. I spell it with a capital letter because it is a glorious book of love and goodness, strength and beauty. Your countrywoman gave it to me because she had learned I was in grief and sadness and wanted to help. She put it into my hands, saying, You seem to live up to his teachings. And when I opened the book, I saw it was the word of Abdul Baha, prophet of love and kindness, and of his father, the great teacher of international goodwill and understanding, of a religion which links all creeds. Their writings are a great cry toward peace, reaching beyond all limits of frontiers, above all dissension about rights and dogmas. It is a religion based upon the inner spirit of God, upon that great, not to be overcome variety, that God is love, meaning just that. It teaches that all hatreds, intrigues, suspicions, evil words, all aggressive patriotism, even are outside the one essential law of God, and that special beliefs are but surface things. Whereas the heart that beats with divine love knows no tribe nor race. It is a wondrous message that Baha'u'llah and his son, Abdul Baha, have given us. They have not set it up aggressively, knowing that the germ of eternal truth which lies at its core cannot take root and spread. There is only one great verity in it: love, the mainspring of every energy, tolerance toward each other, knowing each other, helping each other, forgiving each other. It is Christ's message taken up anew, in the same words almost, but adapted to the 1,000 years and more difference that lies between the year 1 and today. No man could fail to be better because of this book. I commend it to you all. If ever the name of Baha'u'llah or Abdul Baha come to your attention, do not put their writings from you. Search out their books and let their glorious, peace-bringing, love-creating words and lessons sink into your hearts as they have into mine. One's busy days seem too full for religion, or one may have religion that satisfies. But the teachings of these gentle, wise, and kindly men are compatible with all religions and with no religion. Seek them and be the happier. From the Cincinnati Enquirer in Cincinnati, Ohio, on May 4th, 1926, a Tuesday.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Very well read. So this was published in the Queen's Council, and this was how Queen Marie of Romania would send out her, not only her thoughts, her guidance, and her words of advice. She was very, very, very popular as a queen during her day. She was so popular that these Queen's Council was published and recirculated in myriads of publications. She was very similar to this column was very similar to an Oprah Winfrey of her day, in the sense of popularity. When anything she would say in this Queen's Council would be recirculated. So it was huge news when she openly declared her belief in Baha'u'llah, and in her writing, her love for the faith. And so this was huge. So this was her letter to the beloved guardian in her own writing, right here on the left. And this was published, and on the right is, because it might be a little hard for seeing it in her own handwriting, so I wrote it on the right. It says, the Baha'i teachings, such as the Queen's written testimony, brings peace and understanding. It is like a wide embrace gathering together all those who have long searched for words of hope. It accepts all great prophets gone before. It destroys no other creeds and leaves all doors open. Saddened by the continual strife amongst believers of many confessions and wearied of their intolerance towards each other, I discovered in the Baha'i teaching the real spirit of Christ, so often denied and misunderstood. Unity instead of strife, hope instead of condemnation, love instead of hate, and the great reassurance of all men. And she signs it, Marie. She was an incredible queen, not one of these type of queens that would sit up in her ivory tower type. And you're going to see it in this presentation, how different a queen she was. So this, she was, as I said, extremely popular. She was the cover of Time magazine, 4th August, 1924, the weekly news magazine. Marie Windsor Hohenzollern. That's, I guess, the actual last name. So Queen Marie of Romania. And so she was on the cover of Time magazine. So this is a little 2 pages, but I wanted this to be included because this is Miss Martha Root's response to Queen Marie of Romania's acceptance of the faith. So I'm going to read the first page, 84 and 85, and then we'll have readers for the next one because it's a little small. It might be hard to see it. So here we go. Her Majesty Queen Marie of Romania, written by Miss Martha Root. The following article, highly interesting in itself, comes to us most significantly just at the time when a remarkable statement of Queen Marie appeared in a syndicated form in the newspapers of America, in which she described her impressions on reading Dr. Esselmont's book, Baha'u'llah and the New Era. It is a wholehearted commendation of the Baha'i teaching. Queen Marie has been for years noted as a personage deeply imbued with idealistic and humanitarian motives. It was our privilege in 1909, before her ascension to the throne, to visit her summer home in Simiai, Romania, at a time when it was unoccupied by her. We were deeply impressed with the spiritual atmosphere of her living apartment, furnished largely with her own handiwork. The carving of the furniture, the paintings, the beautiful altar, all made by herself and all indicative of a deeply spiritual nature. Her books, her thoughts, as one gleaned in a hasty passage of her home, were such as to indicate the kind and spiritual ruler that she has become. Having written to Her Majesty, Queen Marie of Romania, sending with the little note the book, Baha'u'llah and the New Era, an invitation came from the royal palace that she would see the writer the next morning at 12 o'clock. It was a precious letter, for the Queen was not receiving anyone because she was in personal sorrow in those days of January 15th to February 1st, 1926, when the writer was in Bucharest. The palace was not the one in the center of the city, which is used more for state functions, but another great palace, farther out, a distance of 1/2 hour by carriage. No need to ask next morning if this is the right direction. The hundreds of automobilists, diplomats, military officers, horseback riders, tradesmen, and drivers of ox carts form two great, colorful, interesting processions, one going each way. It looked as if all roads in the Balkan lands must be leading to this Romanian king and queen's palace, much the same as the mighty Danube River, after touching many lands, chooses Romania in which to seek the sea. In the distance, one sees the splendidly wooded grounds of the palace. They are like a winter fairyland, enchanting with light snow and icicles, half revealing, half concealing their forest greens. Soon one reaches the great gates where officers in the uniforms stand at attention, and others are stationed down the winding road leading to the porte cochere. One and all, when they see the letter, bow, then motion the coachman forward. So everything went easily, just like a shadow moving round and losing itself in the noonday sun. The palace was one of those art creations so satisfying to the eye in color, form, and proportion. As one approaches, one sees that it is not going to be necessary to ring a bell to enter a queen's home. Men in stately livery assist one. Their eyes are kindly, and instantly one feels that a regal atmosphere is also an inner something indescribably extraordinary, as well as gorgeous externally. The butler, with almost Gladstonian manners, shows the way up a wide circular stairway to a drawing room. He informs a lady in waiting who comes at once. She is a young woman, very pleasing, and she has her knitting a scarf in one hand. She smiles and greets me and says that Her Majesty, the Queen, will receive me. Passing down the wide halls hung with art treasures, we enter an immense music room where flowers, tapestry, cloisonnaires seem vibrant with beauty and perfectly blended. However, one gives them hardly a glance, for one feels the presence and sees in the distance a most beautiful woman emerging through the portieres. The lady in waiting whispers so low that it is like a breath, Her Majesty, and then disappears, softly closing the doors behind me. Queen Marie of Romania comes quickly forward, smiling her welcome. How beautiful she is! She looks like a flower herself in her blue silk morning dress with gold low shoes and hose. One can understand how all love and adore their queen, for she possesses beauty and charm of mind and manners while from her grave blue eyes flashes the light of a great spirit she knows, she understands, she loves. The meeting that morning was very simple, very great. The visitor felt the Queen's friendliness. Sitting down together by the table, Her Majesty expressed thanks for the book, Baha'u'llah and the New Era, and said that she was reading it with deep interest. She remarked how people's lives differ. Some can be like apostles and travel over the whole world to spread divine teachings. Others, perhaps, have the task of king or queen whose responsibility is to bring a country and its people to the highest development possible. She showed how a king and queen are the supreme court of justice when all else has failed. When justice has not been found anywhere else, theirs is an ear that can still listen, a hand that can still give, a heart that can still pardon. Her Majesty proved how awake a queen must be, always watchful, always ready. She must never avow herself tired, never admit that she at the end of her tether. There must never be any hour of the day or night when the one in need cannot come to her. Later, the conversation turned to religion. Her Majesty expressed herself that every good part in every religion should be respected, that it is not the form but the spirit which is to be considered. She said, I myself am a Protestant, my husband is Catholic, and the children are Orthodox. We have always had perfect understanding. Each has respected the other's religion. No one ever tried to make me anything except a Protestant, and the people have always found me broad toward other religions. I have never been able to understand the spirit of intolerance, and I am astonished at the degree of love that is wasted. If people would only turn to good all their knowledge, their heart, their intelligence. Then Her Majesty emphasized how the ills of the world would be so much less if only people would never put them into words. For instance, she said, young people go out full of confidence, skirting a danger perhaps not bad to them, and which perhaps would not lead to bad if the people around them did not fan this thought. No one wishes to be bad. The reason I am so much in sympathy with your Baha'i teachings is because it is the good influence which the young should find instead of the bad. The bad is so much more frequently emphasized that the good often goes under. Sometimes I am accused of not speaking loud enough in indignation against the evils, but life is so full of pitfalls and temptations. I assure you that anyone can come to me and confess his wrong, and I will try to help him out of it. All work, all ambition, all thought should be constructive instead of destroying. All right, let's have our next reader. Miss Linda, if you could carry on.
What is the beginning? Right, Her Majesty?
Yes.
Okay. Her Majesty, I need to go down. I can't see the top part of the page.
Okay, I'll read the top part, okay? Her Majesty, in speaking of her own life, said that no matter how hard hit she was, she always took it as something necessary to her own final, completely unselfish self. One saw her big universal outlook, her courage in dark hours, for at the moment when the writer saw her, she had just been going through a great personal grief.
Several questions were asked by Her Majesty concerning the Baha'i movement for world peace. She was interested in all the principles and in the teachings for the inner progress of the soul. Seeing the writer's Esperanto pin, she asked about the progress of Esperanto in the different lands. It was explained that the 5-pointed star stands for the light to the 5 continents. The white background is the color of peace. The green is the Esperanto color of hope. And the word Esperanto means one who hopes. The little star was presented to Her Majesty, and she is wearing it. She was delighted to hear that a new clubhouse had just been presented to the Esperantists of Bucharest by Mr. Henry Fisher, one of the great promoters of Esperanto in Europe. She also said, Esperanto has my greatest sympathy, and although I am so busy, I do hope I shall have time to study Esperanto. She was greatly interested in all plans for the 18th Universal Esperanto Congress, which is to be held in Edinburgh, Scotland, the first week in August. Her Majesty, before her marriage, was the Princess of Edinburgh. Speaking of the Universal Educational Congress, which was held in San Francisco in 1923 and in Edinburgh, Scotland in 1925, Her Majesty said she hopes that this Congress will convene sometime in Bucharest and that she will herself come to the sessions. And I can't see the top.
I'll read the top. Her Majesty Queen Marie of Romania is an author, and some of her works have been translated into Esperanto. She has great capacity and works very hard to promote many universal movements for the better understanding of the nations and the welfare of humanity.
The week the writer was there, she gave her patronage and much help to the formation and first brilliant meeting of the Society of the Friends of the United States in Romania. The object of this society is to perpetuate the existing friendship between the people of Romania and the United States through a study of the English language, American history, literature, art, science, to facilitate exchanges of scholars of both countries, to invite and receive officially American visitors desiring to know Romania better. The speakers were Professor Leon Ferraro of Columbia University, New York, who is the chairman of the literary committee of the Society of Friends of Romania in New York. American ambassador to Romania, Mr. W.S. Culbertson, and Princess Kantakas Kuzene, vice president of the International Council of Women. Professor Ferraro said there were 600,000 Romanians in America. Mr. Nicholas Lupu, leader of the Peasant Party, another speaker, said, America is not bound by a treaty with Romania, but she is bound by her ideal of justice, stronger than any treaty. And according to her ideal, she cannot do us any injustice. The world admires Her Majesty, Queen Marie, because she is so daring and so enthusiastic in all that she undertakes. She interests herself in all international movements based upon broad and universal principles of right and justice. When the writer said goodbye to this great-hearted, wise, beautiful queen and gave her Baha'u'llah 7 valleys, a wonderful little book which shows how the spirit can progress through 7 stages to perfect freedom, she went away. She too carried a gift from Her Majesty, a lovely new ideal of queen womanhood. It had been a most happy hour. Riding back through the winter beauty, she remembered a curious saying of the Romanian peasants. Perhaps the time of afterwards has come. It has come, though one can hardly vision it with earth-bent eyes, those 1,000 years of peace foretold in the Bibles of the world are to begin in this century.
Thank you, dear Linda. Thank you. So what an incredible account of Miss Martha Root sharing her experience meeting Queen Marie of Romania. And so this was her personal account captured here. And this was published in Star of the West of her personal experience of meeting Queen Marie of Romania. And so, as mentioned, Queen Marie of Romania was an incredibly spiritual person, incredible spiritual person. And so she continued her column, Queen's Counsel. And in this Queen's Counsel is called The Rutted Mind. And in this one, I think, in this one, she also mentions Abdul Baha. So this is 9th July, 1926. And on the bottom left, it says, I love the old farmer who can discuss politics or a verse of the Bible or the inside of a Ford car or whether it is fitting that women bob their hair. I like the king who can give an opinion as to how artichokes should be planted or in which country the best system of milking has been installed, or what were the laws of the Medes and Persians. I like the rich lady who knows where is the grave of Abdul Baha, as well as where one can buy the best silk stockings, or what was the finest sweet pea grown during the year. So in her casual language, you see, in her Queen's column, she mentions Abdul Baha. So she did this over and over in her Queen's Counsel to make it a regular feature, not only mentioning Abdul Baha and the principles of the faith coming from Baha'u'llah and the New Era in that, but also to per se commonize the name of Abdul Baha so that the names of Abdul Baha, Baha'u'llah, would be common speak and not foreign. And so people, when hearing them, would, and also through her being Queen Marie of Romania, they would love and learn to respect these names. So it was incredibly powerful that she was constantly writing on these subjects. And here again, what is God? You see, this is actually a very section in, and this is in the Buffalo Times, 21st September 1926, and it's rather small. So, but in this section is very similar to the section of God in Baha'u'llah New Era, but this section is also in her own words. God made all things, molding one form from another, developing one from another through eons. And when at last he made man, he said, it is good, and blew his spirit into man, considering him the perfection of creation. No excellent that he found him worthy to be the bearer of his own spirit, that each of us has a spark of God within us. It belongs to God. It is God, has but one craving to return to God. So it's very interesting. She, even though she is queen, the head of the monarchy of Romania, but she writes on myriad of subjects, including spirituality and these columns that are in this Queen's Counsel. And then this comes out, St. Louis Star, and the Times. This is 24th February 1930. Now the world is awakening to the first monarch accepting the faith. Marie of Romania, convert of Persian cult, priest asserts. So now the world is, after that open confession of Queen Marie of Romania in the, we just read it, it was in the Cincinnati Enquirer, but it was circulated all over the world. And so now it says, Queen Marie of Romania has become a qualified adherent of Bahá'ísm, according to the high priest of that faith, Shoghi Effendi, grandson of Abdul Baha, who founded it. Baha'ism or Bobbyism is a modern pantheistical religion founded in Persia and with a mixture of Christian, Jewish, Mohammedan, and Parsi elements. He declares Marie was converted to Bahá'ísm through efforts of American believers, notably Miss Martha Root. Shoghi claims more than 1 million adherents, including 60,000 converted Jews. There are 10,000 Bahá'ís in the United States, he said. So this is what was published in the St. Louis Star and the Times publication in 24th February 1930. But this is not the only one. There was several. So here's another one. This was published Monroe News Star, the Monroe, 26th February 1930. Dowager Queen, Princess, reported cult members. So here again, Baha'i sect formed by Persian prophet claims 10,000 in the US. So this was huge, huge news. It cannot overemphasize how big this was. Queen Marie of Romania accepting the Baha'i faith and openly proclaiming it. It was incredible. So Queen Marie of Romania and her daughter, Ileana, are the queen and the princess for whom the hosts of the Supreme Concourse of the Baha'i religion have long been waiting. The United Press learned today from the New York headquarters of the cult public announcement of the fact the Romanian queen has become an adherent of Bahá'ísm founded some 80 years ago in Persia by the Prophet Baha'u'llah was made in Palestine this week. The queen, after her Egyptian tour, will make a pilgrimage to Haifa in Palestine. So she was planning to make a pilgrimage to Haifa. Her and her Princess Ileana to go to meet the beloved guardian. After her Egyptian tour. Okay. Princess Ileana, it is understood, will accompany her. Queen Marie and Princess Ileana announced their intention of visiting Haifa and paying homage to the high priests of Bahá'ísm some months ago, according to an article which appears in the February issue of the Baha'i magazine published at Washington. So not only Queen Marie of Romania, but Princess Ileana both wanted to pay homage to the beloved guardian. The Queen's abiding interest in the cult dates back as far as 1926, when she wrote several letters on the subject to newspapers in the United States and Canada. These letters are reproduced in the Baha'i World, a yearbook published in New York. Queen Marie's complete faith in the principles of Bahá'ísm is evident in these letters, and the manner in which Bahá'ísm regards her deep interest in its tenets is reflected in the magazine article, which is in the form of an interview with Marie and Ileana. Martha Root, an American follower of Bahá'ísm, is author of the interview. Miss Martha Root writes, and it goes on, and it goes to another page. But this was just a clipping, dear friends, of this, so you get a feel of this article in the Monroe News Star, 26 February 1930. So another article coming out saying this Queen Dowager openly declares and her declaration of the faith. Also, Princess Ileana was investigating the faith and also wanted to pay homage to the beloved guardian on their pilgrimage, because they after their trip visiting their Egyptian tour, they were going to go to Haifa and pay homage to the beloved guardian. So, as you all know, and King Ferdinand died very shortly after, 20th July 1927, and Martha Root had her second audience with the Queen on October 9th, 1927, and she was told that the Queen and her daughter, Princess Ileana, had been reading the Kitab-i-Iran and learning about life after death. So here's some pictures of Queen Marie of Romania. She was a very beautiful queen in not only in her elegance, her attire, but she was also very regal, even in her country costumes, and you'll see this also. So this is more pictures of Queen Marie of Romania. So this is her country costumes. You can see how stately she is. And on the left is Princess Ileana of Romania in her country costume. And oh, this is Princess Ileana in her country costume too. And when I say country costume, it means the attire of Romania, their national costume. And here's more pictures. This is a colorified picture of Princess Queen Marie of Romania. So Queen Marie and her daughter Ileana, as mentioned, planned to visit the Baha'i holy places as part of a trip to the Near East. And in anticipation of receiving the guests, the house of Abdul Baha was prepared. And in March 1930, the beloved guardian sent a formal invitation to the Queen to visit the world center of the faith. And as there was no response to the invitation, the beloved guardian sent another cable on March 26 to her hotel in Cairo. And remember, she was going on an Egyptian tour. So the beloved guardian sent the second cable to her hotel in Cairo. 2 days later came the response from the Romanian minister in Cairo. Her Majesty regrets that not passing through Palestine, she will not be able to visit you. So this was a source of great disappointment to the Queen and the Holy Family. So the advisors and the councils of the royal family had advised and blocked the visit of Queen Marie of Romania and Princess Ileana of visiting and going on pilgrimage to visit the beloved guardian. So that was immense grief to Queen Marie of Romania, as well as Princess Ileana, and obviously to the beloved guardian. So here's a picture of Queen Marie of Romania. She's in purple, and Princess Ileana seated to the left in white. And you can see other individuals in the picture: George Reisner, Mrs. Mary Reisner, and Hans Martin Hendrik. So these are other individuals that went with Queen Marie of Romania and Princess Ileana on their Egyptian tour. So here's an extract from Queen Marie of Romania. It says, the Baha'i teaching brings peace and understanding. It is like a wide embrace gathering together all those who have long searched for words of hope. It accepts all great prophets gone before. It destroys no other creeds and leaves all doors open. saddened by the continual strife amongst the believers of many confessions and wearied of their intolerance towards each other, I discovered in the Baha'i teaching the real spirit of Christ, so often denied and misunderstood. Unity instead of strife, hope instead of condemnation, love instead of hate, and a great reassurance for all men. So Queen Marie of Romania really wanted to go and visit the United States. And so in one of her Queen's Council messages, she wrote, the message said, "A dream of America." Okay, so let's read this. And so let me see if we have, John, could you read this one for us? It might be a little small, but you have good eyes.
Sure. One of my dearest dreams is to visit you in your own country. May my dream be realized before I shall be too old or too sad or too indifferent to enjoy it. I am always overbusy in my own country, and my many duties and obligations keep holding me back. Such a large personal family, too all accustomed, accustomed.
All, it must be accustomed. I believe you accustomed. Accustomed. Might be accustomed.
That I should mother them, and that still much larger family, all my dear subjects who have grown accustomed to think that I must be there always, year in, year out, to rejoice with them, weep with them sometimes, watch over their needs, ambitions, and aspirations. One is tied, one is never quite free. Unlike your presidents, we are never at the end of our serving. We have to go on, never relieved of our functions, on and on, unrestingly, as long as God lends us life. Our oldest son did not feel capable of such arduous, never-ending service. Therefore, he denied his kind and gave up, for we of the bitterly royal upbringing and traditions call it giving up. We even call it by a harder name. We call it denying of the duty we believe in, desertion. Well, I have not deserted, nor has my hardworking, faithful king given up. His part has been a hard one, full of sacrifice. But because we consider our country a holy charge, confided to us by God and man, we work on, never matter how arduous or criticized or mocked at our tolling may be. But the thought of coming to your great country remains a dream I hold before me as a sort of recompense I shall ask for one day when I myself feel that I deserve it. I see that America of yours as something very huge and powerful, young still, full of enthusiasm and possibilities, full of contrasts, the maximum of civilization, but some parts of it still crude, almost wild, grand, untamed, unspoiled, the Wild West, so dear to our imagination. I see you all, a teeming mass of workers, everybody busy always, men and women alike, developing your ideas and ideals, applying them, building, doing, rather feverishly, but always enthusiastically, always hospitable, welcoming, generous, rather inquisitive like children who want to know why, the why and wherefore of everything, astonished at our old world slowness and unpracticalness, wondering at our love for precious and not always reasonable old traditions. I should like to argue with you. Fill your hearts with some of the poetry of our old world whilst learning the new, good, useful things you have invented so far beyond our old civilization. Yes, I do want to come and see you very, very much. This is from 1926, Famous Features Syndicate, Inc. That's the copyright, sorry.
Excellent. Thank you, dear John. So yes, Queen Marie of Romania writing this article, and you see how much she also ties God in all of her extracts. So her dream was to visit America. This was said, this is one of my dearest dreams, is to visit you in your own country. So she actually did, and here's a clip of it. So it says, "Welcome, Your Majesty. Democratic America gives right royal reception to Queen Marie of Romania, first crowned head to visit the United States." So here you go, dear friends.
Did they have music with this, or is it a silent feature?
It's a silent, they didn't have sound back in the day, but there will be a clip that you will have sound, and you'll hear that in a moment. But with this, there is no sound. This is silent. So this is Queen Marie of Romania getting out of the royal procession. This says, "Welcome, Your Majesty. Democratic America gives right royal reception to Queen Marie of Romania, first crowned head to visit United States." Romania's beautiful queen visits President Coolidge, an unknown warrior's grave is eagerly acclaimed by huge crowds. Romania's beautiful queen. So here at long last, this is her dream, was to visit the United States, and she did it. And she was the first crowned head as a monarch to visit the United States. And the country loved her so much. And they gave her this amazing procession.
Castle Brown, Romania, home of Queen Marie, by whom our cameraman was graciously accorded this intimate camera interview. Traveller, scholar, and stateswoman, Queen Marie, as the world knows, is the mother of the widowed Queen of Yugoslavia. Amidst the trials and sorrows of an ever-changing world, the Queen seeks peace and happiness in the beautiful gardens of this 500-years-old castle. During her stay here, Queen Marie generally adopts the picturesque national costume, which somehow gives added dignity to an already dignified personality. Here are her two favorite horses, Stan and Brown, whom she treats with all the affection of a true horse lover. In her efforts to promote the welfare of her country, Queen Marie became an international figure. Yet never does she look more national than in her own home. and particularly in the nearby village which she regularly visits. In the market, she shops amongst the peasants with pleasant ease and happy familiarity. However they think of Mari the Queen, they never forget Mari the Mother. Indeed, it's grandmother now, and it's with such delightful scenes as this that she will always be remembered.
So I wanted to include those clips to show that she was such an incredible lady, to not just living in her ivory tower, as they say. She was part of the people's lives. She was wanted to show you that she was very active in the lives of the regular country folk of Romania, her people, but also very active in policies and sharing her thoughts in the international scope. So, well, she was an incredible queen. So moving on, hope you enjoyed that section on Queen Maria of Romania. That was, we're moving on to the next section on Baha'i schools, okay? So another major achievement of the North American Baha'i community at the time, as mentioned by the beloved guardian in paragraph 17 of Advent to Divine Justice, was the development of Baha'i schools throughout the continent. The beloved guardian raises this point by asking, what other community has shown the foresight, the organizing ability, the enthusiastic eagerness that have been responsible for the establishment and multiplication throughout its territories of those initial schools? And 3 Baha'i schools were established in the United States by 1938. This is the Green Acre Baha'i School. You can see this is the Green Acre Baha'i School. Bosch Baha'i School, and at that time it was called Geyserville Baha'i School, and Llewellyn Baha'i School. So we're going to talk about just one of these Baha'i schools for brevity speaking, and also we're speaking about this one also because the beloved master visited this Baha'i school, so it also has special importance. So we're going to be speaking about Green Acre. So it's referred to as the most important institution of its kind in the world. Most important institution of its kind in the world, the beloved guardian. Green Acre occupies a unique place in history. It was built in 1890, and Green Acre originally served as the Elliott Hotel. Sarah Farmer, this is her picture on the right, conceived Green Acre as a gathering place where minds, souls, and bodies would be refreshed. And after meeting with participants in the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893, she pursued the opportunity for Green Acre to become a universal platform for the comparative study of religions, and in 1894 opened Green Acre with the raising of the world's first known peace flag. Sarah had chosen the theme of peace for Green Acre because she believed it represented a call to all humanity, as well as the message brought by each prophet. She raised the first peace flag in the world. It's an incredible lady, and I believe she's one of the disciples of Abdul Baha. In 1899, Miss Sarah Farmer had the privilege of being in the presence of Abdul Baha in the Holy Land and found complete fulfillment of her ideas of social reform in the Baha'i teachings. She returned to America with a vision that Greenacre would become a center for truth, peace, and justice. From 1900 to 1909, Greenacre provided a focal center for the development of the early Baha'i community, and with Sarah's initiative, became the first Baha'i summer school. Abdul-Baha visited in 1912, conferring upon Greenacre another unique distinction as the only school imbued with the spirit of his presence. And here is the beloved master visiting Greenacre, and this is Miss Sarah Farmer visiting with Abdul-Baha, 1912. So that was our section on Greenacre. Now we go to the next question in paragraph 17. So that question, sorry, I'm just going to scroll back. I know it's dizzying looking at this, but I just wanted to scroll back to that question. I should have that up in a second. That next question is, what other community, here it is. Here it is. What other community has shown the foresight, the organizing ability, the enthusiastic eagerness that have been responsible for the establishment and multiplication throughout its territory of those initial schools? So we talked about those initial schools, right? Which as time goes by will be, on the one hand, evolve into powerful centers of Baha'i learning. So we talked about those three, right? And on the other hand, provide a fertile recruiting ground for the enrichment and consolidation of its teaching force. So these schools will eventually become powerful centers of Baha'i learning, which they already are becoming. Now we're going to talk about the next question. What other community has produced pioneers combining to such a degree the essential qualities of audacity, of consecration, of tenacity, of self-renunciation, and unstinted devotion that have prompted them to abandon their homes and forsake their all and scatter over the surface of the globe and hoist in its uttermost corners the triumphant banner of Baha'u'llah? So what other community has produced pioneers like the United States? So this is, let's scroll back so I don't make everyone dizzy looking at all these slides. So we'll go do it this way. Okay, and here we go. The beloved guardian praises the audacity, the consecration, the tenacity, self-renunciation, and unstinted devotion of the North American pioneers who scattered to all parts of the world to establish the faith. One of these shining lights was an early American pioneer, Miss Agnes Baldwin Alexander. These, dear friends, I'm going to, throughout this presentation, and when I say presentation, I'm talking about the whole of Advent to Divine Justice when we're going through it, I'm going to be mentioning names, and this is just one of the names. Agnes Alexander. We've talked about Miss Martha Root. Every one of these beautiful names that I bring up, I encourage you to go and find out more about these souls, because these people are scintillating stars. These are incredible souls that I cannot cover in any manner of any depth in this presentation. And that's why great historians have written books about these people. And I encourage you to go read and learn, and in your own ways, try to emulate their lives, because these people are such incredible souls. So I'm just talking right now about this Miss Agnes Baldwin Alexander. And at the request of Baha'u'llah's eldest son, Abdul-Baha, Miss Alexander pioneered the Baha'i faith in Japan in 1914. And in 1921, she became the first to introduce the new gospel in Korea. Except for extended vacations in Hawaii, which that's a must. Everyone should go and have extended vacations in Hawaii. Agnes spent over 20 to 30 years in Japan. Almost 20, should be 23, not 20, 30. 23 years in Japan. In 1957, the beloved guardian appointed Miss Agnes Alexander a hand of the cause of God. So from this young age to this elderly age, she was pioneering, sacrificing, serving. So what an incredible soul. This is another one of these souls that you should endeavor to research. And this is where it's talking about consecration, audacity, tenacity. So here is a clip from Miss Ria Khanum talking about Miss Agnes Alexander. So it's pretty cool. Here you go.
And I think that it is absolutely marvelous the way they are following in the footsteps of previous generations. Before I came to address these few words to this Hawaiian Baha'i Youth Conference, I was thinking about Agnes Alexander. Agnes Alexander became a Baha'i in 1900. And she was taught by my mother, May Maxwell. Agnes always addressed me as her sister. And at the end of her life, she was one of the 5 women hands of the Baha'i faith. And she was one of those who were able to lift the great burden of the passing of our beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, and carry it as one of the hands of the cause of God. She was a very, very wonderful person. And I think that many of the young women in Hawaii should study the life of Agnes, which was one of, from the moment she accepted the faith of Baha'u'llah till she died, in other words, 71 years, as far as I remember, she devoted herself entirely to serving the cause of God with a single-hearted devotion. We have in our faith very great examples. We have examples in the early history of the faith, of the dawn breakers. You remember Qudus, the youngest disciple of the Bab who loved him so much, who was martyred in the end. They were all martyred in the end except.
So that was a clip from Miss Abdul Bahari Khanum on Agnes Alexander. Okay. Another one of these stellar souls that we've mentioned already, because she is such an incredible lioness at the threshold, is Miss Martha Root. And in the United States in 1919, Miss Martha Root was the first one to arise to the call of His Holiness Abdul Baha and embark on her world travel teaching tours. And in the words of the beloved guardian, Martha Root was the archetype of Baha'i itinerant teachers and the foremost hand raised by Baha'u'llah since Abdul Baha's passing, leading ambassadress of his faith and pride of Baha'i teachers, whether men or women, in both the East and the West. What a great soul. What a great soul. So here we go. This is, I believe this is a clip of Miss Martha Root chanting a prayer. So this is, I believe this is from Miss Martha Root herself.
Glory be unto thee, O God, for thy manifestation of love to mankind. O thou who art our life and life, guide thy servants to thy will, and make them rich in thee, and free from all sinful. O God, keep in thy oneness, and give unto them a realization of thy unity, that they may see no one save thee, thou art merciful and the giver of bounty. O God, who is in thy beloved, the fire of thy love, that it will burn away the thought of everything, save thee. Unto them, O God, thine exalted eternity, that thou hast ever been and will always be, and that there is no God save thee. Verily in thee is the divine comfort and strength. Hallelujah.
So that was just a prayer from Miss Martha Root. So some other pioneers that are highlighted during this incredible period. And we're going to also, in a future section, future part, be talking about these souls again, because the beloved guardian mentions these souls again. So in 1918, when Abdu'l-Bahá's tablets calling upon the American Bahá'ís to hasten to all parts of the world to spread the teachings came, Clara and John Henry Hyde Dunn spontaneously arose to serve, immediately deciding to respond by going to Australia, where they felt they could best serve. The beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, had a great affection for Hyde Dunn, to whom he referred in God Passes By his history of the first century of the Baha'i faith as great-hearted and heroic. Shoghi Effendi eulogized beloved Father Dunn as Australia's spiritual conqueror, and observed in a cablegram that magnificent career veteran warrior Faith Baha'u'llah reflects purest luster world historic mission conferred American community by Abdu'l-Bahá. In 1952, the beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi posthumously designated Hyde Dunn a hand of the cause of God. And on 29th February 1952, Clara Dunn was among a contingent of 7 individuals appointed by Shoghi Effendi as hands of the cause of God too. So both of them were raised to the rank of hand of the cause of God. So this international pioneering became more systematic in 1936, when the beloved guardian sent a cable to the National Convention of the Baha'is of the United States and Canada and summoned them for systematic action in realizing Abdu'l-Bahá's vision as revealed in the tablets of the Divine Plan. So 1936 was the beloved guardian's cable, and then 1937 was the first 7-year plan, the launching of the first 7-year plan. So this was all a process unveiled. So this was the beloved guardian. He took this is next section. So that was the section on international pioneering. Then the next question was, what other community? What other community? And let me get that. I'm just talking about the endowments. Let me get to that part. Here it is. Who else, right? Who else would these summer have done? Don't take labor to provide the funds. We did that. Did that. Okay. Okay. What other community can lay claim to have a decisive share in the worldwide efforts that have been exerted for the safeguarding and the extension of the immediate surrounding of its holy shrines, as well as for the preliminary acquisition of the future sites of its international institutions at its world center? So protection, right? And endowments. So what other community has done this? So the beloved guardian took critical steps regarding the ownership of all Baha'i properties. Hand of the cause of God Hugo Giacheri writes, he, the beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, mentioned that after the reading of the will and testament of Abdul Baha, when he found himself appointed guardian of the cause of God, he told the assembled members of the whole family that he renounced then and there the ownership of any estate, possessions, and chattels that would be his rightful inheritance. Shoghi Effendi also arranged for all assets to be held in trust in the names of the donors of those assets and later registered in the name of incorporated national assemblies. So when the beloved guardian found out that he was the guardian of the cause of God, he had renounced all ownership of any estate, possessions, chattels, any form of inheritance, and all of that was put in the name and trust of the national spiritual assemblies. So in paragraph 17, the beloved guardian mentions the decisive share of the American Baha'i community in the acquisition in the immediate surroundings of the holy shrines and preliminary purchase of land for future international institutions at the Baha'i World Center. Now, we're going to look at this incredible lady in a future part. Her name is Emilia Collins. So, for example, Miss Emilia Collins, one of the hands of the cause, donated the entire sum required to purchase the land on Mount Carmel, overlooking the cave of Elijah for the future Mashal Askar of the Holy Land. The beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi, transferred the ownership of these properties to the Palestine branch of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States as a legal entity registered in Palestine. And by the time of his passing, Shoghi Effendi had effected similar negotiations to register ownership of properties on Mount Carmel to the Israel branches of a total of 9 Baha'i assemblies around the world in recognition of their donations. Not only did this emphasize the international character of the faith, but it was also part of his policy of owning nothing for himself. This touches on the question why the beloved guardian left no will and testament. So this is something very important, dear friends. And when we get to studying dispensation of Baha'u'llah, this is also will be something as comes up again, the lack of ownership of after the will and testaments that the beloved guardian, he assigned everything. He had no claim of property, ownership of anything. It was all assigned to the National Spiritual Assemblies and the entities. So he owned nothing himself. So on the one hand, he had no possessions to bequeath, while on the other hand, he had no son to whom he could pass the office of the guardianship. And all the male descendants of Baha'u'llah had broken the covenant. So this is in what happened. All the male descendants of Baha'u'llah had broken the covenant. He had no possessions, nothing to pass down. So another one of these questions: what other community has been in the aspect of translation? So let me pull that quote. Here we go. It's right here. Who else but those same pioneers have shown themselves ready to undertake the labor, to exercise the patience, to provide the funds required for the translation and publication in no less than 40 languages of their sacred literature, the dissemination of which is an essential prerequisite to any effectively organized campaign of teaching. So by 1938, Baha'u'llah in the New Era was translated into 40 different languages and published in 33 languages. The Kitab-i-Iran was published in 15 languages and translation to 8 other languages was underway. The Hidden Words of Baha'u'llah was published in 15 languages and translation into another 4 languages. Some Answer Questions of Abdul Baha was published in 6 languages and translation to 10 other languages was underway. And this is just by 1938. So the next question that, what other community, right? What other community? In this question was in regards to the incorporation. What other community is? This one. Oh, I love it. What other community has achieved the supreme distinction of having obtained long before any of its sister communities had envisaged such a possibility, the necessary documents assuring the recognition by both federal and state authorities of its spiritual assemblies and national endowments. We did this one, and we did national endowments. This is now, we're talking about recognition, safeguarding. Yeah, it's right here. Yes. What other community has achieved the supreme distinction of having attained long before any of its sister communities had envisaged such a possibility, the necessary documents assuring the recognition by both the federal and state authorities. So let us read this. One of the objectives pursued by the beloved guardian. Okay, Miss Linda, could you read this one for us?
All right. One of the objectives pursued by the beloved guardian during his ministry was to ensure that entities of Baha'i administrative order were legally recognized in each country at both national and local levels, and that any assets were held by an endowment fund. The 1926 to 27 National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States and Canada completed a task which, while pertaining to the outer and more material aspects of the cause, nevertheless has a special significance for its spirit and inward sacred purpose. This task consisted in creating a legal form which gives proper substance and substantial character to the administrative processes embodied in the Baha'i teachings. The form adopted was that known as a voluntary trust, a species of corporation recognized under the common law and possessing a long and interesting history.
Excellent. Thank you, Miss Linda. So you can see on the right, this is the certificate of declaration of trust that Ms. Linda was reading about, that was declared, and this was in for the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States and Canada. So this is the actual stamped document certifying that the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States and Canada is legal and recognized under common law. So these were just some of the endowments that during this period is under the National Spiritual Assembly. So in the United States of America, the national endowments of the faith already representing $1.75 million of assets and established through a series of indentures of trust created in 1928, 29, 35, 38, 39, 42, 41 and 42 by the National Spiritual Assembly in that country, and were acting as trustees of the American Baha'i community. So this, as you all know, December 25th, 1938 is Advent of Divine Justice. I've included all the way up to 1942. So these are just some of the things in the endowments. When I say things, it could be properties, assets, and other things that are included in the assets of the National Spiritual Assembly. So let's go through them. The land and structure of the Mashal Askar, the caretaker's cottage in Wilmette, Illinois, the adjoining Hazrat al-Quds. This is the Baha'i National Headquarters and its supplementary administrative office, the inn, the fellowship house, the Baha'i Hall, the arts and crafts studio, a farm, a number of cottages, several parcels of land, including the holding on Mount Salvat, blessed by the footsteps of Abdul Baha in Green Acre in the state of Maine, Bosch House, the Baha'i Hall, a fruit orchard, the Redwood Grove, a dormitory and ranch buildings in Geyserville, California, Wilhelm House, Evergreen Cabin, a pine grove in 7 lots with buildings at West Englewood, New Jersey, the scene of the memorable Unity Feast given by Abdul Baha in June 1912 to the Baha'is of the New York Metropolitan District, Wilson House, blessed by his presence and land in Malden, Massachusetts, Matthews House and ranch buildings in Pine Valley, Colorado, land in Muskegon, Michigan, and a cemetery lot in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So this is different endowments, and this is coming bulleted and added for emphasis. This is coming from God Passes By. Page is 337. So see, these are some of the endowments of the National Spiritual Assembly. So what other community has been this organized, this in its endowment, right? Had the foresight. And lastly, and finally, in the end part of paragraph 17, that long paragraph of the Beloved Guardian, right? Finally, in paragraph 17, the Beloved Guardian praises the North American Baha'i community for their efforts in safeguarding the Baha'i faith and its institutions in countries where the community had been experiencing persecution. The Beloved Guardian, Shoghi Effendi, mentions Persia, Egypt, Iraq, Russia, and Germany as some examples. So in safeguarding and protecting the faith in these regions, Persia, Egypt, Iraq, Russia, and Germany. No, so some of the cases, just these are some of the cases, not all of them, but these are just some that are mentioned in God Passes By. The Beloved Guardian here identifies some specific authorities who were approached by the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States and Canada. So look at how many times this National Spiritual Assembly has gone out of their way to do what? Safeguard and protect the community. Now let's go through them. The Palestine High Commissioner for the restitution of the keys of the tomb of Baha'u'llah to its custodian. The Shah of Persia on 4 occasions pleading for justice on behalf of their persecuted brethren within his domains. The Persian Prime Minister on that same subject. The heads of Islam in Persia appealing for harmony and peace among religions. King Faisal of Iraq for the purpose of ensuring the security of the most great house in Baghdad. The Soviet authorities on behalf of the Baha'i communities in Russia. The German authorities regarding the disabilities suffered by their German brethren, the Egyptian government concerning the emancipation of their co-religionists from the yoke of Islamic orthodoxy, Persian cabinet in connection with the closing of Persian Baha'i educational institutions, the State Department of the United States government and the Turkish ambassador in Washington, and the Turkish cabinet in Ankara, in defense of the interests of the faith in Turkey. So you see, dear friends, how many times, how many places and efforts that this National Spiritual Assembly has gone out of their way out of their way to safeguard and protect this community. It's truly, truly stellar. So we're at 3:57, and as often you'll see throughout this presentation, I often include a comic to be lighthearted. So here, this says, Mr. Osborne, may I be excused? My brain is full. So, so there you are, dear friends. We'll stop there for today. Hope you enjoyed our session, but you can see how incredible is this Queen Marie of Romania. And truly, and you're also going to see another extract coming up in another part showing her brilliance, her true genius. Once she declared as a Baha'i, just inspirations, and it's really awesome. But that's it for today. Covering paragraph 17, and look who's joining our class. Look at that. So wonderful to see. Thank you so much to every one of you. And look at that little beautiful soul. That's a future per se MC that will be guiding these courses and filling in, right? Future John right there, and will be. What do you think, John?
What do I think? Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, right? So look at that
want
beautiful soul. That's the future, the community, the future, the hope of the world. It's right there. And so, yeah, I have a little one myself. So it's such a blessing to be holding little ones like that. So I want to thank every one of you today, and it's been a pleasure as always. And so, do we have any questions at this point from anyone, or insights before we have our closing prayer? I think we're all captivated by your little one, dear John.
I have a question.
Go for it, dear John.
Milk's after, don't worry, we'll get milk after.
Excellent. I know, our eyes are glued to that little one. So let us have our closing prayer, and let us all enjoy our week and have a wonderful day.
All right. Scott, would you like to say, Linda, would you like to say the prayer? Close out.
Okay.
The Southern States prayer. I don't think we have it pulled up, actually.
Actually, we said that at the beginning twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the motive that
Okay.
all of these sessions will be saying those, since we're in Clearwater, and divine justice has a lot to do at this moment, this stage, with teaching. So this is asking for the strength to follow through.
Oh my God, thou seest me in my lowliness and weakness, occupied with the greatest undertaking, determined to raise thy word among the masses and to spread thy teachings among thy peoples. How can I succeed unless thou assist me with the breath of the Holy Spirit? Help me to triumph by the hosts of thy glorious kingdom, and shower upon me thy confirmations, which alone can change a gnat into an eagle, a drop of water into rivers and seas, and an atom into lights and suns. O my Lord, assist me with thy triumphant and effective might, so that my tongue may utter thy praises and attributes among all people, and my soul overflow with the wine of thy love and knowledge. Thou art the omnipotent and the doer of whatsoever thou willest. Abdul Baha. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
wonderful
everyone.
Thank you so much. And we are going to continue this again next week, the next session. And for next week's session, what will we cover, dear Ehsan?
So next week we'll be getting, into paragraphs 18 and 19. And so that is your homework, dear friends. Paragraphs 18 and 19 of Advent to Divine Justice. And now we're getting into this matchless and brilliant record of service. And so we'll be getting more into that, exploring this early American Baha'i community history. Okay?
Thank you.
Splendid.
Have a wonderful week, everyone.
Thank you,
and to share this-
Allah.
Allah.
And please share this beautiful sessions with your friends, and let's have this be something that you share in your communities, you start in your communities, start reading this very, very important book, especially now, Advent and Divine Justice. Allah.
Thank you.